Welcome back. Tonight I'm joined by City Councilman David Zaremba and Celeste Bisha of Idaho Power. We are going to be talking about energy efficiency and environmental sustainability. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
We appreciate having you here with us today. Celeste, can you tell me a bit about yourself and what you do for Idaho Power?
Well, at Idaho Power, I manage the Residential Energy Efficiency Programs Group. And so we have a variety of programs for our residential customers as part of our energy efficiency efforts.
Well, very good. That sounds like a very exciting job.
It's a great thing to be out in the forefront with customers and helping them to save energy, save money on their bills. And so it's a very rewarding job. Yes, we have a lot of folks that come to us with a lot of great stories about how they've been able to reduce their bill and save energy.
That's great because July is upon us and it's typically one of the hottest months of the year in the Treasure Valley and one of the months that is the highest in energy use. Is that correct?
That is true. At Idaho Power, we're a summer peaking utility, which is kind of unusual for the Pacific Northwest. But we have our actual winter peak we do have winter peaks, but in the summertime we have our overall peak. And so we usually see somewhere between 2,800 and 3,000 megawatts, which doesn't mean a lot to you, but it essentially means that that's the highest use of energy in the summer. And that is driven by residential customers as well as our irrigators. We have a very large irrigation load that peaks in the summer. And usually that happens sometime in July, which we're in right now.
So what kind of infrastructure do we have in place to meet those demands?
Well, we have, of course, traditional generation. And so we have our base load generation, which is generally hydro and coal. And then we have peaker plants that help to address load that goes above that. We also purchase power in the summertime because we do have that peak. But one of the big things that we've been developing over the last 6 or 8 years is our energy efficiency, what we call demand response programs. And so at Idaho Power, we actually pay customers to use less energy at peak times. And that provides us with over 300 megawatts, or about 10% of our total peak load during a month like July.
Well, and certainly we signed up for that program, and we're one of those that take advantage of a little bit of a discount and do our share to help out.
So like the AC Cool Credit Program I think you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So basically what that is we just put a small switch on an air conditioner, people's air conditioners, and then we pay customers $7 a month in the summertime to allow us to do that. And then we can cycle your air conditioner on and off for short periods of time on high usage days. And so we never entirely turn off an air conditioner. It's always coming back on and off. But even though there's very little impact to an individual customer, and I don't know if you've noticed it or not, I've got it at my house as well, we don't really notice when the air conditioning cycling is happening. But even though there's very little impact to an individual customer, at the system level, we can get about 40 megawatts of demand reduction, and that is almost an entire peaker plant that we get from residential customers.
It's a great program and been very positive. Councilman Zaremba, as we look at energy savings, know that the City Council made a conscious decision on the new City Hall building and receiving our LEEDs designation in 2008. Perhaps you can tell us about the City Council's decision behind that and what their intent was.
Well, the former City Council and mayors and the current City Council and mayors have been planning for a long time for the new City Hall. And beyond just providing a building where the city functions can take place, it's been one of the guiding principles to have a building that made less of a carbon footprint and was more energy sustainable. The LEED program, which you mentioned, LEED, stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and it's a program that's run by the U.S. Green Council to focus on sustainability. And what they want people to do is find ways to save energy and save the environment related to buildings through the entire life cycle of the building, which means design, construction, operation, maintenance, and everything in between, everything that all of those mean. And it's to reduce the environmental impact of the building. So the City Council felt that that certification was a way to show that we had taken those steps, and we're very proud that we got the certification.
Well, and I think the added benefit to that was certainly that we not only looked at the building itself, it's the behaviors that reside in the building. We did all kinds of different programs to encourage alternate forms of transportation. We have bike lockers and a lot of a plethora of things that we have done to encourage certainly reducing that carbon footprint. Now, Celeste, the city of Meridian received $100,000 from Idaho Power when we moved into City Hall. Can you tell us a little bit about that program and some of the benefits?
Yeah, the program that the city participated in is called Building Efficiency, and essentially it's trying to incorporate energy efficiency when a building is first built or when there's a major retrofit, because that's really your best opportunity to save energy is when you're in the construction phase. And so the Meridian City Hall and Mayor's Office was very forward-thinking in that, in terms of trying to put in measures that we call, which might be efficient HVAC systems or control systems or lighting systems, all those types of things, all those systems that use energy. You're trying to put in more efficient models and or design things in such a way that they use less energy throughout the life cycle. Some of those things may be a little more expensive at the outset, but they can save you over the lifetime of the building. In particular, if it's a city building, it's something you're going to own for a long, long time, and so it makes a lot of sense. So we try to educate our customers to take advantage of not only the building efficiency program, but other programs that we have within the suite for either existing buildings, retrofits, new construction, the whole life cycle of buildings. Because one of the things that you mentioned, David, was that buildings take a lot of energy in the United States, and a lot of us think, when we think about energy use in the United States, we're kind of conditioned to think about cars. And yes, we all know they take gasoline, and there's a lot of energy, and there's a lot of gasoline that comes from the Middle East and all of that, but actually buildings are the biggest consumptor of energy in the US, and they're also the biggest pollutant in terms of emissions of CO2 and carbon. So it's really buildings that we need to be thinking about when we think about energy efficiency.
And Councilman Zaremba, you mentioned some of the decision to go to the LEED certification. Can you tell us maybe some of the design elements and the features that we have in City Hall that makes it a LEED building?
There are actually quite a few, and you mentioned some of the behavioral changes. One of the elements in the LEEDS program is during the construction phase, how much waste is there. We managed to recycle 80% of the things that would normally turn out to be waste and go into a landfill. That certainly helped us with our LEED certification, but it's one of the things that you have to watch. There are many features of the building that were designed to help save energy. I'll highlight a few of them. For instance, just the decisions that are made about roofing material. Our roofing material is a reflective white, which saves on energy costs during the times that the building needs to be cooled. There are many windows around the building, and behind those windows, the interior partitions are low and also have windows in them, so that if you're in the interior of the building, you have much more natural exterior light coming in, which reduces the need to have lights on all the time. Another feature of the windows is that they're actually made out of special glass, so that they're highly non-transmissive, I think is what they say. But as the area outside heats and cools, that doesn't get transferred inside as much, so that the air conditioning system isn't overworking to overcome all of that. And the heating and cooling system itself has several different zones, or has more zones to it than a typical building have. And the idea behind that is that as the exterior heats and cools unevenly, depending on where the sun is or isn't, the inside has enough zones that the areas can stay comfortable, and that means that the people that are working there don't constantly have to get up and be changing the thermostat.
Right.
and that makes the energy consumption much more level. You talked about high efficiency air conditioners. The ones that were put in, the chillers and boilers and air handlers, are much more energy efficient, which saves a great deal of energy. Most of the light switches around the city hall are motion sensor type, so that lights are not on when nobody's in the space. There's a whole bunch of other things that we did as well, but the end result is that the building will use 27% less energy than a similar building of the same size. And that represents a significant savings to our taxpayers.
Which is fantastic, isn't it? Now, Celeste, as we looked at some of those captures, we also recently took advantage of another Idaho Power program called Easy Upgrades Program. Can you tell us about that program as well?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a suite of programs, and so we have programs that try to fit most of our customer classes. What we talked about earlier was some large retrofits. We also have larger incentives that go beyond $100,000 for some of the large custom or food processors, things like that. But what you're mentioning on Easy Upgrades is really what we try to provide to the smaller business owner and or smaller measures or smaller energy efficiency activities that are done in a variety of commercial buildings. And a lot of times that's lighting. I believe in this case it was an economizer project, which essentially is a cooling type project for your building. But that was $1,500. And most of those incentives are well under $10,000 or even under $5,000. So they're small things that are that most any business can take advantage of, either to upgrade their lighting or upgrade their HVAC system, their heating and cooling system, or even put in a new thermostat control system of some type. And that's what the City of Meridian took advantage of, which is great for a lot of smaller businesses.
Well, I think a lot of people don't really understand that Idaho Power is actually giving people money to pay less money to you.
And why would we do that?
Why would you do that?
Well, we get asked that a lot because it's not very intuitive. Why do you pay people to use less of your product? And the answer really lies in the fact that as a utility, we have to generate electricity for people that people need to consume. Conversely, we could make the whole system more efficient and try to wring more out of the existing infrastructure that we've built. So we have a certain number of generation plants, and we have transmission lines, and we have different things like that. And eventually, those all need to be upgraded. But if you can get every bit of efficiency out of the existing system, you can delay new expenditures for that, which saves us all money as ratepayers. And so energy efficiency looks at what you can do either to reduce energy use at certain points in time, like at peak. And a good analogy for that is I-84. We could build, 15 lanes of freeway between Meridian and Boise, or we could just try to get people to use less of the freeway during peak hours, okay? So what we try to do is get people to use a little less of energy during peak times when it's most expensive, and that's more efficient a lot of times than building a new peaker plant, okay? So that's where our AC co-credit program comes in. Where other energy efficiency comes in is where we can delay future generation or even baseload generation by having people use less energy by buying more efficient refrigerators and dishwashers or other appliances, or building buildings more efficiently through our Energy Star Homes program, or having more insulation put into your home through our home improvement program. So there's a variety of things that we do, and all of these things help make our system more efficient. Now, not everything do we have an incentive for, and that's because it costs more to provide an incentive for certain things than it does to build generation. And a good example of that is I'm often asked why we don't do PV incentives, home photovoltaics. And the reason why is because that's still a fairly expensive technology relative to what it costs to build a new generation plant. And so as ratepayers, we don't want to subsidize things that are not what we would call cost effective. If it's not cost effective, if it's not cheaper than or equal to purchasing a new generation source, then we don't incent those things, and that's why we don't do PV.
Well, I know we have definitely been looking at how we can be more energy efficient and have a sustainability plan. Now, the city received in 2009 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. And so, Councilman Zaremba, maybe you can tell us about some of the projects that were chosen. Certainly, Idaho Power was on our committee in selecting some of these programs, but what are we planning on doing, and what do we think the net results will be?
Most of the projects that are involved in that grant involve retrofitting older facilities with newer technologies that will enable us to take advantage of advances in energy efficiency innovations. One of the projects, for instance, is we've selected corridors for street lights that are being changed to LED and induction lighting. And we have an expected savings there of about half of the current energy cost on them. And I wrote it down. Not only does that save about $6,000 annually, but it's projected to result in 31 metric ton reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So that's a very effective thing. Similarly, we have a program to change out the lighting fixtures in our wastewater treatment plant, and we expect that to be a similar kind of savings. Also, at the wastewater treatment plant, we are putting in 2 new turbo blowers, and again, there's a statistic that should save approximately $48,000 annually by saving 970,000 kilowatt hours of energy. And it's also predicted that that will reduce greenhouse gases by 407 metric tons. And that's just tremendous. Other similar things, we're changing out the light switches in our fire stations to be the motion sensor type, so that again, we're not using energy when nobody's in the room to use it. In the police station, we'll be changing many of the electrical and mechanical systems to upgrade them to be the more efficient types. There are more things we're doing, but basically the projects were chosen to enhance Meridian's long-term strategy to operate in an environmentally sustainable way and to have less of a carbon footprint.
Yeah. Now, Celeste, while energy conservation is certainly first and foremost on people's minds, as we talk about sustainability, that's not all that you do. I understand that Idaho Power has an environmental and natural resource program, and it's difficult in that a power company would have as many established environmental programs as Idaho Power does. Can you tell us a little bit about what Idaho Power is doing in this area?
Yeah, well, we've had a long history because, as you know, Idaho Power was main generation source for many, many years, and still pretty much is hydro. And as a result of those hydro dams, you've got a lot of environmental impacts that need to be monitored and mitigated wherever possible. And so way back in the very beginning when the dams were built, there's been fish monitoring and habitat types of activities that have gone on for the last 60 years or so. So Idaho Power kind of built from that, and then over the years we've gradually added other types of activities, and that would include the recreational parks that are out there. Those, maybe you have stayed down at the Hells Canyon complex, where we have a number of really nice campgrounds that are out there for people to enjoy the area there. We also do a lot of water quality monitoring, and this is certainly something that's required on the federal level, but has other benefits for recreationists as well. I mean, the rafters and whitewater folks like to know what kind of water levels are in the various dams that are along the Snake River corridor. And so we provide that information to anyone that could use it in various ways, but we use it in a variety of ways to make sure that the fish are properly being cared for and all of that. And then along with that, with fish mitigation, we have fish hatcheries. We have a lot of studies that are ongoing to see what impacts the dams are having on fisheries. And then finally, because of the area that we're in, there's been a lot of work on the birds of prey and helping to save raptor populations throughout the Snake River corridor as well. And Idaho Power's been in the forefront in a lot of ways in developing not only ways to mitigate power line impacts on the raptors and things like that. We have an ongoing program to help create nesting boxes on top of our power lines. They're a very popular nesting destination for a lot of raptors, but they build nests that are really messy and big, and twigs hang down, and it's very dangerous for them because they can create situations where they can be shocked and their young can be killed by the very nests that they're building. And so we actually build nesting boxes on top of those. So there's grown up to be an entire large area of Idaho Power that is in conservation oriented things, natural history kinds of things, habitat, fisheries, recreation. It's really quite significant, and it's quite an effort by the company, and I salute the company and the folks that do that.
Well, certainly we applaud Idaho Power. We certainly appreciate the city's approach to energy efficiency and sustainability. Probably have learned a lot of things that we are doing in our community and the surrounding area that is working together to try and conserve our precious resources and help that new growth come in and generate jobs as well. Well, time flies very quickly, and we are already at the end of our time. I'd like to thank both of you for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Energy efficiency and environmental sustainability is something everyone in our community can embrace. Not only is it good for the state, it saves all of us money. Up next is a profile on an emerging new business in Meridian with a revolutionary new telemedicine system. Join me in our profile as we celebrate Connect's MedPro systems. All right. While we are talking about summer, many of our students will soon be headed back to school. Each month we have the opportunity to share future leaders who are impacting Meridian in a very positive way. This month's leader comes from a long line of active student leaders in our community. Join me as we profile Luke Sigmiller, our future leader of the month. Yep. Okay. Now, one of my favorite parts of our show is when we get to answer a question from the community as part of our Ask the Mayor. Cable One Movie Night is in full swing with a host of great movies for people of all ages. Movie night continues to be the must-attend event every Friday night at Settlers Park. I encourage you to check out the Parks and Recreation website to see all our great movies over the summer. In June, we will have Planet 51, Astro Boy, State Fair, and Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian. Movie night is a great event. We need your help to keep it great. Please keep your voices low and be aware of other park patrons as we're trying to enjoy the film. Also, remember Settlers Park, like all parks, close at dusk. Those who are in the park and not watching the movie will be asked to leave. Help do your part to keep Meridian Movie Night a great summer event in our community. Well, we are at the end of our program. I'd like to thank City Councilman David Zaremba and Celeste Bisha with Idaho Power. Next month, we'll be joined by the Ada County Highway District to get an update on the road projects taking place and planned here in our community. Thank you for joining me today as we celebrate Meridian. Now, did I say this month in June, and isn't it July? Okay. Okay. Yeah. When I said that, it's just like, oh, it's not June. Last month, you probably saw. Mm-hmm. I know. I think last month in June, I think I talked about the anticipation of the opening of Meridian of 10 Mile Interchange. It's like, yeah. Yes, we are. Good job. Welcome to the July episode of Celebrate Meridian, our monthly look at all things Meridian. Tonight I will be joined by Celeste Bisha of Idaho Power and City Councilman David Zaremba talking about energy efficiency and environmental sustainability. Now, I hope you have been enjoying the summer season and have taken advantage of many of the events in our community. Summer is a great time to interact with neighbors and come together as a community. In Meridian, we place a strong emphasis on neighborhoods and homeowners associations. City Hall has rooms routinely made available for our homeowners associations to come together and hold annual meetings. We have an audio-video technology available for use, convenient parking, and city representatives that can be made available to provide information on subjects that matter most to our community. Those rooms can be booked by calling 888-4433 and are available for use outside of regular business hours Monday through Friday. Another important way neighbors and homeowners associations can get together is with National Night Out on August 2nd. National Night Out is an evening of social events that are a partnership between our neighborhoods and emergency responders. While designed to heighten crime awareness and drug prevention, National Night Out also helps to strengthen neighborhood spirit and bring police and community partnerships together. Ultimately, these events are held throughout the city, and it sends a message to criminals letting them know our neighborhoods are organized and they have no place in our community. Each participating neighborhood celebrates in a variety of ways, including block parties, cookouts, visits from police and fire departments, the mayor and city council. Some neighborhoods even have parades and contests that involve their neighborhood community. This evening of events is one of my personal favorites in Meridian, as I get to see that camaraderie that exists between neighbors and the city as we build our community. If your neighborhood hasn't had an event in the past and would like to get involved, I encourage you to do so. To learn more about National Night Out or have your neighborhood participate, contact Melissa Delaney with the Meridian Police Department at 846-7360. This is just one more way that we can celebrate Meridian. Are we done? All right. Yay, thank you all.